think there is a notion wherein in a world wherein you exist to just work 24/7 because of two things. One is that A, you will drain yourself out, and B, also I think some of the most creative ideas as entrepreneurs it's not our job to just keep on executing day to day, but it's also our job to once in a while sort of zoom out, take a look at the larger strategy, ideate a bit, get creative with your approach, etc. And these requires recharging your batteries. And so, yeah, taking a break, I think, is vital because it's going to be a marathon, not a sprint. So, yeah.
Totally.
I definitely agree with Ratan. But there's one thing about entrepreneurs, there is no structured breaks or something like that. There's no weekend per se. You cannot say that, every weekend I'm going to take a break. But the moment you think that, you're getting into the zone, you need a break, you just take it, recharge your battery and come back and fire guns again. So, but on Sundays, we do have meetings. That is the day when we plan out for the next week.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I totally agree with Hassan and Ratan. It's more like, it's not like every Saturday or Sunday is a weekend. Sometimes it's like entire 1 month you are extremely busy because of deadlines. Like currently, like with me, with the YC, we just had a demo day yesterday. I haven't slept for last 38 hours. But then I know that once that is done, I can probably sleep for 2 days. So break is definitely important. You can't function without that.
Super cool. So all the audience, please note, right? That's the extent you have to work if you're looking to start something on your own. And I completely agree, right? In fact, there's a very dear friend, Ayush, who runs Pesto, right? He's made a rule, right? He doesn't work on Sundays, right? Which is very cool. Which I'm hoping even I'm gonna make a rule like that and follow that, because it's essentially, yeah, sometimes when you're like, okay, let's continue to build something, right? And then the very few but there are VCs who literally work every day with entrepreneurs. So it could be equally taxing. And I feel that, breaks are absolute necessary because, like Ratan said, some incredible ideas and your creative juices need, to jump back. So super cool. And it's an honor because I think Ratan started Colosense. So thank you for starting this. And I hope it, kind of brings a lot more entrepreneurs, and brings a lot of knowledge to students, for them to kind of figure out how entrepreneurship is, how do you build companies and so on. So
like a full circle back. And we started this like in, I think 7 years ago, this conference and the ACT conference and coalescence and all that. And now coming back on it as a panelist, that's like a full circle. It's very interesting.
Amazing. So, okay, since the audience is a lot of really young folks, quick question. How old are all of you?
I think I'm probably the oldest one here. So I'm 30.
Okay.
27.
26.
Super cool. Okay. And where all did you study?
I went, okay, I'll go first.
Yeah, so please.
I did my bachelor's in Delhi University, master's in Hyderabad. Then I went to do my PhD in NUS Singapore. I finished that in 2017. Yeah.
I did my computer science engineering from Calcutta, and I started my first company from there itself, a software development company. Yeah.
Yeah, I studied in BITS Goa.
Yeah. Awesome. So, okay. And how was college life for you? Again, because, we have a lot of students here. So just want to understand, how was it? Essentially, were you doing a lot of projects? Were you doing some side gigs? Were you partying all the time, or were you very studious? What was college life for you guys?
I can probably go. I think it was very interesting. The first semester itself, we were introduced to website development. And that's when, I wanted to make some small gigs and all of that. So that's when I started freelancing. And I got an internship opportunity. And then post that, I started my company called Tipo, where we were developing mobile application software for other companies. So I think the entire college life was around building that company. That's a very service-based company, not a particular startup. And by the time I graduated, I had already expanded my company to the UK and Kosovo with over 60 team members. So college life was not really a party life, but I was definitely involved in studies as well. There's a lot of people who say that when you get involved, you neglect to study. So I knew that I had to take care of my, semester exams as well. So I was involved juggling between these two things. But yeah, it was quite fun. A learning experience for sure.
Sweet. How was it for you, Rathin and Monica?
For me, it was well. To be honest, I was pursuing electronics engineering, and like half the stories of engineers here, I got into it, but I was not super interested into it. Is what I realized later, and so I started my entrepreneurship journey right from college. Was a part of Cell, and actually, I started my first startup, which was Reco Pro. It was a product startup back in college itself. We had a course called NVC, New Venture Creation, wherein for 6 months you literally just are actually graded to start a company, like an actual real company, not just study about it, which I think is one of the coolest parts of BITS. Participated in that, and that gave us the impetus to start off. But even apart from that, every year we had at least one attempt at a startup. My first startup I remember was renting out high-end designer clothes, which was a disaster because I didn't know anything about renting or clothes. And but it was a lot of fun because this is the time when you can go extremely foolhardy, just don't care about anything else and just go for it. Figure out, if it works, it works. If it doesn't work, you get to know. So, and you still have age on your side. So every year, that was the first attempt in college. There was another attempt, a third attempt, and eventually landed onto Reco Pro, which was the startup which I actually started. I think in the third year of my college, finally, we started this, which went on to become like a serious startup, which I later on picked up and then ran full time for a couple of years as well. So yeah, for me, college life was extremely fun, extremely exciting, very engaging. I got to know so much. I come from like a small town, Vapi, and for me, like meeting like a cosmopolitan crowd was a brilliant experience. So yeah, for me it was like a mixed bag, to be honest.
For me, it was quite different, I would say. Like, I did not do anything related to entrepreneurship in college. And because for me, it was more like I genuinely like biology. So, whatever I was doing, and I was quite interested in research projects and all that. So, I did every year, I did internship in IISc and some other places. But talking about entrepreneurship, that I realized only when I was doing my PhD. And I realized that I liked it, but I really don't see myself doing it forever. And I wanted to build something on my own. But at the same time, I had no idea where to begin at. So I just and also I wanted to like check all the boxes, like going to a corporate job and all that. But I did that. 6 months I left, and like, okay, I'm not working for anybody for 14 hours. There's many things that I can do. I see I have understood a lot of healthcare gaps that exist. I should do something on my own. So that's how I started. But because I did not have any experience, I failed miserably for like first 1.5 years. Even now, I would not say we are successful, but yeah, we are learning.
That's amazing.
My advice would be to students, if I look back, if I had to change anything, I would probably be like Hassan or Ratin, where I would do a lot of entrepreneurship things when I was in college. Because I think that's the time when you can really you have that age and you have that network when you can really try things quickly without losing much. So that's the time you should make use of, which I did not.
You don't have much to lose, that's the beauty. You don't care. You just start basically, right?
You meet a lot of new people, you make new friends, new exposure, and you have a lot of cushion to make mistakes. That's the best thing about college life,
Rathan, you were saying something.
No, I just saw your message. You said you also failed at a fashion retail startup.
Yeah. It's funny that I wasn't aware. I actually ran a warehousing company for 7.5 years. I sold that profitably, but that wasn't like a startup. That was more like a business, right? And for from a lot of students, I get this question: what is the difference between business and startup? Is basically the speed and the scale, right? Like, I mean, a Kiryana dukan is a business, right? But building a grofers or a big basket perhaps could be, in the simplest way I could explain, might be a startup, right? Where you're trying to do something at a massive scale. So yeah, I ran that, and then I actually tried building a fashion rental startup myself. And in 9 months, I figured out that there's probably no way to make money in this, and we wrapped it as well. So yeah, that's a funny coincidence that I didn't know about you guys. But what I want to talk about is, Ratin, you said you ran something before. Hassan, you ran something before as well, right? And Monica, you did a bunch of internships, I guess, right? So, again, when should students jump in? And and the follow-on question, or let me just get this, and then I'll ask you, the next question maybe.
I would say, go ahead.
Please. So I think it's very subjective to every student. There is no particular timeline for starting up anything. Uh, I'll just take myself as an example. When I joined my college, I just wanted to make money. To be very honest, there was nothing about changing the world or impacting. It starts from yourself. You need to first bring a change in yourself, and then talk about anything else that you want to do. So the only thing I knew was coding. I could develop really good looking websites when I was in my first year. And I just started my company because I wanted to pay my own semester fees. I wanted to buy an iPhone 5. As I remember, there was this launch and I was like, dude, I need to buy it for my own money. And that just, kicked me, pushed me harder to work and to start a company. I was at the same time, I was also giving tuitions as well. I just wanted to put my hand into a lot of things, understand things about myself, because during the school time, you're always very when in a very confined atmosphere. In college, you get more freedom. So I was testing a lot of things. I was giving tuition, and I started my company, and then it went on well. Now there is this dopamine rush that you get whenever you hit a milestone. You get like 10 team members working with you, and then you hit this one milestone, big large figure, and then like you want to take it higher. And then I got an opportunity in Europe. There is this country called Kosovo in the eastern side of Europe. They just got an independence like 10 years ago, and I got a project from there. I visited there, and I saw that there is no IT infrastructure. Like in the entire market is completely empty. There is no Indian out there. The best thing about Kosovo. So no Indian. I had reached out to them for IT services and all of that. And that's like, let's build a company there as well, and so that we could expand the services. So I just tried making experimenting a lot of things. Some worked, some failed. And yeah, so there is no timeline per se. It's the hunger. You want to do it, you just go do it. Don't wait for anything else. Nothing is going to happen like according to your own whims and fancies. You want it, you get it.
Yeah, I totally agree to that. For me, it was more like hunger. Yes, definitely. Without hunger, you can't do anything, no matter whether it's your exams or whether it's your sort of getting a job, anything. But talking about the right time, I don't think there was any right time as such, because everybody, like, if I look back, it's like half of the people wanted to just party because it was just the first year. Half of them wanted to just do something on their own. Half of them wanted to go for internship. But at the end, by the time college was ending, everybody realized, oh my god, I missed this part because I did not do it at that time. So it's like when time was already passed, that time people were realizing, no, we wish we could have done that. So I think now, but I think now, at this I'm talking about 2009, but now I think there are much more, there are many more programs now with entrepreneurship, and Bits is doing amazing. I have all my interns from Bits. I think they're also here. So they have like pretty good exposure, but at the same time, it's not very clear when you are a student that what you want to do. Like even when I was doing my PhD, I was doing my best, but I still was not clear, like, is this something I really want to do? So, and I mentor many students from some NGOs, and I think 80% of them have this common question, like, I don't know what I want to do. I like this, I like that. So I think the answer to figure that out is really you have to try it out. Because unless you try it out, you would not know. So sooner you try it out, faster you know, and then faster you know what you really want to do. So yeah, just in a nutshell.
So I think, according to me, see, there are two parts to this answer. One is organic and the other is inorganic. So what I feel is that if you organically get an opportunity someday or sometime when you feel like, hey, listen, we are in a situation, the situation is developed such that, there's an amazing startup competition where you and your friends have participated, and suddenly you see potential there, or you do some course like NVC, or you're part of some accelerator, or you're just four friends sitting on at Monji in Bitsgoa, and then suddenly you come up with an idea. Those are organic routes, and organically, if you come across something, you find it interesting, go pursue it with all your heart, 100% do that. But inorganically, so and by that I mean, if you're in a situation where you just have the desire to start up, right, but you don't know right now who's your sort of your teammate or your idea, etc., which by the way is the case with 90% of the startups, where at least right now, I mean, even if you look at the people in the session here, would be the people who would have the desire of starting up, but right now don't know whether what's the correct idea or what's the right team, etc. If that is the case, if inorganic is the case, startup not based on your timeline, but startup based on the timeline of the company. And therefore, what I mean by that is, let's say you nailed down one sector, you figure out, you try and lace down all the problems, and then you try and do a bit of research by speaking with the users. And the moment you have a conviction that, hey, listen, dude, there is actually a genuine problem here, where where nobody's sort of supporting or sort of nobody's building something, I think that's the time that you go in. So I think in terms of inorganic, the time of the startup should be whenever, the moment you hit a conviction point where you know that, oh, all right, building something here would be a good contribution. So yeah, that's when you should go in.
And let me start with Monica. Monica, how did you find the problem statement, right? What got you to start Zelt, and how did you feel that there is a larger problem? This is same for Hassan and Ratan, right? Like, how did you guys figure out that this is what I want to solve?
So I did not really go ahead with a one particular idea in mind. Like Ratan has seen my journey. We started with very random ideas, pivoted 100 times. But one, like the reason why I started and why I decided to do something on my own was like when it was March 2019. So when I was working in the company in Singapore, I lost my aunt, and also my cousin sister was going through cancer. So I having looked at their journey, like my cousin, she would call me at 3 o'clock at night asking, I'm having fever, I'm having vomiting, like she was undergoing chemo. Is it okay? Like, what do I do? Do I go back to the doctor? Like, there's just no solution out there. So, and then while I was doing my job, I realized that I was basically working as a senior scientist leading various cancer drugs projects, basically. So, and I realized that, there's so much money, like billions of dollars being spent in the pharma companies building drugs and all. But if I look at countries like India in the emerging markets, because if you look at the doctor to patient ratio, it's so over skewed. Like, so I realized that there were just basic gaps that needs to be solved in these emerging markets before we even talk about building the latest technologies. So I realized that because I have some expertise in this, like last 8 years I spent in this field, why not just help somebody who's so close to me instead of, so that was the point that hit me, and like emotionally, and also something like I realized I really wanted to do something bigger. So, and after 4 months, I left my job. But at that point of time, I was just clear I want to do something in this field. I was not sure what idea I wanted to work on. So we started with random ideas. It did not work. Then we just visited like January 2020, before COVID hit, we visited like 14 hospitals in India, just went to all the cancer hospitals, Tata Memorial, Medanta and all that. Then we realized the ground truth, it was so hard. Like there were just people, thousands of people waiting outside Tata Memorial. And I talked to them, they're like, they're waiting for 2 months. I was like, really? And they're just sleeping there outside waiting for the treatment, waiting for the number to come so that they can get the treatment. And that was the point that hit, that there is a big gap that needs to be solved. So that's when we just started, as Ritin was saying, then we started talking to patients, started talking to doctors, really understanding what is that common thing that is a problem that exists and how we can like solve it. So yeah, just started with that and talking to users, figuring out things, tried like very quick MVPs, figuring out what is working, what is not working. And then from there, in last July, we came to this idea that, okay, there is a big gap that exists, and COVID really made that, basically kind of escalated that part, because of COVID, patients who were having like cancer and other diseases who could not really go to the hospitals, they had no easy way to manage the condition at home. And same problem was there for the doctors. They just could not really, they were not able to see what is happening with the patients. So that's when we came up with the idea of remote monitoring.
Before I jump on to Hassan, there are about 100 audience. If folks, do you know what Monica, Hassan's, and Ratan's startup does? If you know yes, just type yes in the chat window. I can request them to quickly describe what their company does. Okay, we're getting a bunch of yeses and nos, and it was I also wanted to know that if the audience is listening to us or not. So sure, Dhaval. Monica, Hassan, Ratan, would you like to give a 30 second quick if you could explain what does your companies do?
Sure. So we basically build software to help hospitals remotely monitor their cancer patients once they leave the hospital, that is once they are back home. And our system analyzes the data and alerts the hospital if there's any patient at high risk. So that's in a nutshell what we do.
Got it. Hassan?
So at Tagmark, we're building a platform for creator monetization. We know there are a lot of content creators in India, but only the select cream ones make money. So building a bunch of exciting tools so that they can monetize by offering different services to their audience, like a video call or a private community, exclusive podcast, and sell different kind of, even a WhatsApp community, for that matter. They can sell different services to their audience. So it doesn't matter whether you have 100,000 followers or 10,000 followers. If you have depth in your following, if there are people who love you for your content, you can monetize. So that's what we are enabling through our platform.
Super cool.
Yeah. Spending basically is trying to create the easiest and the fastest way to start investing for young people like our audience. The way it works is every time you make any digital transaction, we round it up to the nearest 10 rupees and we invest it for you automatically. So let's say if you go to some cafe and you buy a cup of coffee or something for 173 rupees, we round it up to 180 and the difference of 7 rupees invested automatically. And so over time, you can keep doing your transactions on your credit cards, debit cards, UPI apps, net banking, etc. And we'll keep collecting and keep investing automatically on your behalf. So yeah, that's the idea.
Super cool. So a lot of even students could use that.
Absolutely. That's the purpose. Yes.
Super cool. Okay, and I think there are a lot of student creators as well now. So Hassan, could you give like maybe a couple of examples, right? Like, I mean, I know there's some bit student who has like who's a big YouTuber, and I mean, I'm sure there'll be like a lot of content creators, right? So it'll be amazing if you could help us explain that. What exactly could somebody use Tag Mango for, and how? Maybe a couple of different examples.
Sure. So there is this creator called Shrita Sharawat. He's a dating coach. He's just got about 11,000 followers on Instagram and about 20,000 followers on YouTube. He wouldn't make any money through brand integration. And with even YouTube AdSense, he's not made over 50,000 rupees in the last 5 years. So for him, monetization is really a pain point. Although this 11,000 following, they are ardent followers. So he's created a private community on a platform called Sim to Stud, where he's creating exclusive content, enabling, probably empowering people with confidence, how to talk to opposite gender and all of that. And with that community, he sold that community to his Instagram audience, and he made over 5 lakh rupee in just 3 weeks. He's got about 700 followers, and he's made such a big amount of money, which he would not have made either through brand partnership or through YouTube AdSense, because he does not have a lot of following. So here we understand that depth of following is much more important than the width of following. So that is one creator. The second one is there is this regional creator. Again, tier 2, tier 3 cities, they don't get a lot of exposure, right? And their audience set is also not that high paying for the brands to get attracted to. So there's this creator called Azhar. He's a maths trickster. He's got about over 300,000 followers, but he does zero brand integration. He went onto a platform. He does maths live sessions on a platform, and he's made over 150,000 rupees from a platform in the last 2 weeks. So that's like the, and now we've just launched a new feature, like we are the first one in the world to do so. We have built this WhatsApp community. So all of these creators want to reach out to their subscribers on the best or the fastest social media, which is WhatsApp. WhatsApp consumes the maximum amount of your screen time, right? So we are enabling that as well. We are talking to people like other cream creators. I'll make it a little confidential for now, but some cream creators are coming onto the platform and they are building WhatsApp community, so that whenever the content is out, or there is an audio note that they want to do, they can do it right on a one-to-one to their subscribers on WhatsApp. So there are a lot of creators who are creating audio notes from our platform, and direct the subscribers. WhatsApp becomes more accessible and more convenient for the subscribers as well. So these are like some of the examples of community building that we are doing at Tag Mango.
Super cool. And I wish I had known of this content creator about an year back. I got married now. Otherwise, I would have used his services. So, well, I mean, I think you definitely are gonna have a bunch of signups today for this content creator from the audience.
Yeah, guys, reach out to creators@tagmango.com, and my team will definitely help you with the onboarding process. We have a great enthusiastic team. They'll help you with all the sign up, the mango creation, and all of these things. So send us a
audience. Again, time for a yes and no. How many of you know what is Y Combinator? Okay, majority of them know what it is. Okay, so we're gonna skip what YC is. Somebody also said obviously yes, so I like that. Folks, how was it getting into YC? YC is, of course, this amazing institution that everybody wants to be a part of it, right? If you're building a company, it's not only prestigious, it's truly helpful in the sense that, especially the alum network is in my humble opinion the real value that if I actually build something and I get into YC, I think the coolest thing for me is to connect with the alums. What was it like for you guys? Has it helped? Is it a signal? Is it only a signal, or is there a genuine, very solid value add? What would you guide people? Should they apply to YC? Yes, no, why, or why should not?
Yeah, maybe I can go first. So I'm going to divide this into two parts. One is what's the value add, and the other is how do you get in, according to me at least. So value add, pretty simple. They have two extremely strong value add points. First is that their intense focus on product and getting to a product which can generate revenue. That's their sole single-minded focus. They've hammered this into us that, hey, listen, everything else is a distraction. In a startup, there are 1,000 things that you need to do. Everything else is a distraction. Focus only on getting the product right. So either you're speaking with the users, and if you're not speaking with the users, you're coding the product. And if you're not coding the product, you're speaking with the users. That's the only two things that you should do. And that's the initial part of YC. And then the second sort of part of YC is the support that they provide in terms of seed funding. And I think this is something that both Hassan and I have already gone through, and Monica will go through. Is that even during a time as difficult as COVID, they helped us a lot during the seed funding process, because given their immense network, the amount of investors it gives exposure to, so that really helps us put our product and our pitch out. So that's the value add side of YC. And the second part is how do you get in? I think there are only three things which are extremely important to YC. One is your speed to execution. How quickly do you build out something? And that's the one thing that you need to bring out in your interviews as well. Second is your knowledge of your industry or your matrix. You should know every single metric at the back of your hand, because that's what they focus on. They want to know how well researched you are. And third, finally, is how big is the market? Because eventually the idea may change, the initial idea. In fact, almost about 20 to 30% of all the startups that get into YC change their idea after getting into YC. But the market remains the same. So if the market is good enough, as in the big enough, then the opportunity always exists. So yeah, I think these are the three things that they focus on when you're getting into YC.
I could not have agreed more with Ratan. It's totally bang on. I think with regards to value add, first of all, there is this great validation that you get. You're not just backed by your conviction. Now you're backed by the biggest accelerator. So it adds a lot of value. And with regards to other things, I think the exposure is very enriching. You get to meet a lot of veterans. You get to meet a lot of people who have already been there, done that. And, there is this thing called officer that we have. And whenever you get there, as Ratan said, they hammer us down, and it's all about getting the clarity of thought. I think one thing that I take away from YC is narrowing it down to one and not caring about anything else. Guys, am I audible?
Yeah.
The screen froze.
Yes.
Awesome. So it's about the clarity of that. I remember whenever we used to go for this office hour meeting, and then when we come back, oh damn, what are we doing? So as an entrepreneur, as a young entrepreneur, you have so many things on your plate, and they don't have any. So at YC, you don't get any formula for success or something like that. What they do is they just understand what you're going through, and then just tell you, okay, dude, you don't need to work on all of these things. Just focus on this. This is important because this is the most important metric for your startup, right? They say your startup, you know it better, but what we know is the rules of the game, right? You can't be having so many things on your plate. You need to have the clarity of thoughts. That is like the cool takeaway. And also, the network, you get this accessibility to talk to anyone and everyone across the globe. That is of great value. So I'll just pause it there. I think the value add is immense, guys. Definitely you should try. But not getting into YC is also not the end of the world. That's just what I want to say. A lot of people think that if you're not backed by YC, there are a lot of companies who have made it really, really huge by being rejected by YC. Now, with regards to the application, I think Ratan has covered all the points. Just one hack I want to give you guys. So when we were applying to YC, as we Indians are, we are very dramatic. So we write really long answers with a lot of buzzwords and all of that, thinking that we'll be cool. Don't do that. Okay. That is like the no for it. One of the things that we did is there is this Dropbox's application form online right now that we took inspiration from. And the way they framed their answers were very, very particular, like just really condensed answers to the point. I think you should start with that. You take that inspiration and then go about building your entire application, because your application form comprises all the questions that you would anyway have for your startup, and it'll give you a lot of clarity of thought. And during the interview, they don't start with your introduction or anything. They just nail you down to the weakest point, and then begin from there. It's a 10-minute hardcore interview. So just know your subject well. I think there is this entrepreneur who told me that, Hassan, if you want to start something, you should be able to write at least 400 lines about it. If you're able to write so big about the startup, about the problem statement that you want to do, then do it. If not, then you really need to do more research. So, yeah. So that is like my 2 cents on how and what.
Yeah, so I totally agree with both Ratin and Hassan. Regarding the value add, of course, I think they covered all the points. But I would add, especially, like, I can talk from the healthcare side, because the thing is, in healthcare, if we talk about US market versus Indian market, the regulations and everything is very different. The paying system is very different. Everything is covered by insurance, whereas in India, everything is out of pocket paid by patients. So when we talk about business models, like, this was my major question in my vice interview was 6 minutes, and the only question they had was the business model, because they could not understand the business model, because it's very different for US. In US, whatever you have, it goes into insurance, you just claim it. In here, whatever we were doing, first of all, it was pretty new, because digital healthcare and all these things came out only after COVID hit. And then going to hospital, and from there getting patient, and then getting patient to pay, they did not understand it. They came to the interview and they were like, okay, what is a business model? Who pays? How does it make sense? In my 6 minutes, that is all that they asked. But regarding the value add that they do, they have, like, that's the Vice is the only place in the world that has gathered experience of so many, like 3,000 companies over so many years. They have seen those patterns, what works, what doesn't work. And that is where their experience is something you can't get from anywhere else. So when you go to the office, as Hassan was mentioning, you say that, okay, you are having XYZ challenge. They will really dig deeper, like, okay, why is this challenge? What is this that you can do? Are you on the right track? If this is not in your hand, then leave it. If there's something you can really do about it, then do. Then try to solve that problem. This is something I would never think if I was not there. And then they also help you connect that. I was not sure on the regulations part, like, if we later want to expand to US, how does it work? So, and I had no idea, like, whom to connect in FDA. I had no connections. I just tell them, very next second, I get a message, okay, please, the person has already texted me, and your partner asked me to talk to you. So that network you can't get anywhere else. Like, apart from the experience, that network, and then just making sure from their experience, they would help you to make sure you're on the right track. And before you start YC, everybody, like, you are already celebrating that you got into YC. Everybody's congratulating you. The moment you enter into YC, you realize the reality of your startup, that you are not at all at that stage where you should be celebrating. You should just go back and work. So that was pretty. That was kind of a pretty stark difference, I would say. And before 1 week and after 1 week, and I joined YC. Regarding the application, like, how to when you're applying for YC, what are the things they look at? I think these guys covered most of the points. One thing that I realized was how easily can you explain your idea. Like, in my application, I spent like 1 month writing my application, because I really wrote it very technical. The reason being because I had so much technical background with the PhD and all. And my thesis, it's like, you first explain in 1,000 pages what is the problem, then you go to the conclusion. So I was so used to doing that. But in application, it had to be other way around. You first write in a very, like, in 1 sentence what you are doing, and then explain. That was a challenge for me. That was really a challenge for me. So if you can really explain well so that a 5-year-old can understand, I think you are halfway there. But yeah, don't use buzzwords. We had our name Zelth AI. I removed AI from the name, and I only kept it Zelth in my YC application, because I did not want any AI word. So don't use any buzzwords. Explain in a simple manner what you do. And I think they have these videos out there where they have many videos by these partners where they explain why not to use these buzzwords. And also, like, if you are building a software, do not write software, write an app. Because we don't know if it's an app or it's a software that needs to be like that, something that needs to be installed on a laptop, or something that comes as a license. If it's just an app, just say app. So I realize those small things really make a difference when you apply to YC. And second part, I think at least in our case, they look at is the team. Do you really have the right skill set? Like if I say I'm working on cancer, is it like anyone else can also do it who does not come from that background? So having that domain expertise really feel like really do your favor. So those two things were the most important part, at least in our case.
Super cool. Last question before folks, please start putting your questions in the comment box. How did you meet your co-founders?
Okay.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. So for us, actually, it was we met in another accelerator in Singapore. So my co-founder Gaurav, he is from the sort of on the tech side, on the tech and the product side. Now, before I tell you this, I think, and this is one common question which I often get as well on DMs. So I'm just going to just put it out there. What forms a good co-founding team? And I think the biggest thing is not the number of people or what kind of people you are and all of so on and so forth. You need to understand that as a startup or as any company, there are only two things to do: build and sell. And if the co-founding team can do both, then that's it. That's an amazing co-founding team. That's about it. And it is as simple as that. If you have someone who can build and someone who can sell, you are a great combination. And so in that respect, I'm going to, so my answer is now in that respect. So I come on sort of on the selling side. Gaurav, my co-founder, he's on the building side. He's a software developer. And he's probably one of the best person I know with respect to product. How I met him was that I was in this accelerator called Entrepreneur First, where Monica is also from. So this organization where they select like 100 individual people with their own sort of strengths, and your job is to find out a co-founder within that 100 people of the cohort. And I met Gaurav there, and that's how we started working on Spenny.
Sweet.
Yeah, so it's the same as Ratin. Like I met my co-founder there, but before that, so basically the way EF works is, so when I left my job, I had no idea like how entrepreneurship works and how to build a company. I just knew that I have good experience in this field, but in order to build it, I would definitely need somebody either who has more of business expertise or who has some more of like technical expertise in terms of softwares. But when I joined Entrepreneur First, I realized that it's more than that. You need to find somebody, because it's like a law. It's just like it's like a professional marriage sentence. You are really going to be with that person almost for 10, 20 years, maybe forever. But so having that person with whom you can really, with whom you share the common vision and have a complementary skill set, but also have right personality match, that's very important. Like with EF, what they do is, as Atin was mentioning, they will get there's a pool of 100 people, and then you go there as an individual, then you try speed dating, work out with different people, try working with different people, doesn't work out, break up. We even have a breakup week. We celebrate all the breakups to realize that, okay, this is a good time to break up and you don't go ahead with the wrong person. But once you figure that out, and then you know that this is the person you want to work with, that's when, along with complementary skill set, that's the time, like for me it was like, okay, now this is the person I can definitely work with. Because initially I tried working with a couple of people, but we did not match in terms of our vision. My point was, even if we don't raise funding from EF, even if we don't raise funding later on, we'll continue bootstrapping till the time we have some solid thing in mind that, okay, this is what is working, and then from there we'll take it from there. But finding that person who's ready to do that with you was not very easy. So, but luckily I got Dheeraj, my co-founder from EF, after 3 breakers. So yeah, we continued from there.
Cool. You already answered one of the questions somebody in the audience asked, right? Which was, okay, there are a bunch of questions now. Let me pick it one by one, right? So yeah, somebody asked that, what do you prefer, being bootstrapped or joining an incubator, accelerator, or getting funded?
I think for that, at least in my case, it's like having an incubator is definitely good, because it's like a validation, definitely. Plus, of course, you need money, so that way it's good. But at the same time, when I did not get through EF, that was like, at that point of time, that felt like the worst time. I like felt like such a failure. But now looking back, I think that was the best thing that happened. because we were not ready. Like we were definitely not ready. We did not know. I came from the background. I did not know what financial projections are. I do not know how to really show revenue projections, how to calculate the market size and this and that. These were the basic things that I learned because I had no experience in this. I could do very well in the cancer. I could do very well in the immunology, but I could not do the very basics that were required. And then later on, when we really like bootstrapped and we went to the doctors, we realized ground truth was much more different than what we had hypothesized it to be. So, and since if you're really thinking about building a real business, you need to know these things before you actually take money. Because once you've taken money, it's not that you have money; it's now your responsibility that you have to give them ROI. So you need to be ready for that. So I think so. Even Vice suggested at the same thing when on our demo day. Don't talk to investors until you're ready to talk. Get all your things sorted. Have answers to everything. Have your plan ready. Then only talk to people. Like I think, but at the same time, it's also a FOMO game when you compare yourself with others out there. Like somebody got in, somebody raised this amount of money. Every time you open your story, you see this startup raised 12 million. Doesn't matter. Everybody has their own journey. So just focus on what you are building. Get conviction. Talk to users. Once you know that time, it will be easy for you to raise money. When you are on a right track, investors will come in. But reach that stage till then bootstrap. That's my suggestion.
Again, it's very subjective. So when we started TagMango, we bootstrapped ourselves. We made it to a point where TagMango was profitable and we were generating over $150,000 in revenue. We needed funds to scale because we were in the influencer ecosystem and we wanted to onboard and bring them into some exclusivity contracts. That is the time we realized that we need some more fund backing, and that is the time we went after Y Combinator and Techstars, and we got through both of them, and YC happened. So I think, guys, it's very subjective. You may not need an accelerator for your startup. It really depends on your business model. I think you can start something by yourself first, understand, get a flair, get some conviction, and then go out and raise funds. You need to have this understanding. What will you do with the funds? Because once you get them, then the ball game changes. Then there's a scale game. But if you've not realized your fundamentals correctly, then it's gonna be really pain. So I think getting your basics straight is more important than anything else.
True that. Yeah. Ratan, what do you have to say?
I think I differ in opinion a bit. I think, to be honest, it depends on what stage of life you are in also as a person. Are you someone with 5 or 6 years of experience and a bit of savings, such that even if कल से अगर पैसा नहीं आएगा तो next 2 साल तक can you survive? If yes, then your call has to be different. If you are in your university and you're literally, so far you were on your parents' money, and now you're going to step out and start spending your own money or start working on a company with that money, of course, then it does not make sense that you keep taking that same level of risk. So then should you rather than go for investment from outside? So to be very honest, that depends on what your situation is, what's your risk level. Is your family dependent on you or not? So there are so many such factors. So I don't think giving out a generic answer is the correct way. What I would suggest, if you want to figure out if this is a bootstrap business or a investor backed business, is that figure out how much risk you can take, as in what's the maximum amount of money that you can burn without feeling uncomfortable. So once you've set that amount aside, if that amount equals to equals to at least 18 years or 18 months or at least 12 months of company's runway, as in if you can use that money to run the company for 12 months, then go for bootstrap. If your money remaining is less than that, so you won't have enough time for you to get the churn through. So in that case, try and go for investment. That would be my answer.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Somebody said, how do you know that our startup idea is profitable?
Yeah, I think I'm going to combine that question with another question, which I really like, because that is something which we went through also, that how do you know this is the idea you want to go ahead with? I keep having a couple of ideas. I can't seem to narrow which is the one. So that and the profitability idea. Yeah. All right. So my answer would be, there's no right way to, like in advance, just figure exactly predict that, oh, this one's the winner. That's really, it's super difficult to do so. But so what's the closest proxy? That's what you're looking for. The closest proxy is that once you figure out in terms of, like, there is something called as a founder idea match. There are many ideas which are great ideas, but you as a founder, you need to actually work on this for a long period of time, which is like, let's say 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and therefore figure out an idea which you also like to do. I mean, yes, there are 100 other ideas which are also maybe profitable, but you need to figure out the one where you will enjoy the most as well. And therefore, when it comes to that, there are two things. One, figure out, reach a point of conviction where you feel like, okay, this is an actual genuine idea. How do you do that? Well, speak to your users and keep building an MVP and see if that demand picks up. And then second, figure out if that matches your expertise, or at least your area of interest. That, hey, listen, I am generally interested in finance because I also came from investment banking background. And when I started Spenny, it was already exciting because I had a lot of people tell me that, hey, listen, investing is so difficult. Can you help me with that? So I just married the two, and therefore I figured out this is the idea. So to answer your question, how do you choose if this is the idea? If there are 2 or 3 ideas, my suggestion would be try those things out. Try out, and you will know which one's picking up fast. And then you can take that up. And once you've picked up an idea, once you've picked up an area, that's when you then worry about the profitability. How? By planning it out. That, hey, this is the unit economics. This is how much at scale I might spend, but this is how much I plan to make from every customer. So if I spend like 300 rupees on getting every customer, and if I have a plan in place such that I will be able to earn at least 600 rupees from every customer, I know that I will be, in the long term, I'll be profitable. So yeah, I think that's how you should go on.
Adding to just what Rath said, this is one thing Reddit's founder told us in an office hour, that if you've not got enough resources, if things are breaking, but your numbers are going up, you've got the perfect match. Go ahead.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think also it matters, like when you know that when you have some multiple ideas and there's one idea, you would know it which is the right idea if you're really talking to users. Like there's a term called product market fit, which comes very later on, but it starts much before that. Like we tried multiple ideas, but from the response you were getting from doctors and from the from the patients, the moment you like talk to them and you realize this is not what they need. And when you are really building something that's a problem out there and you talk to the conversion rate will just increase drastically. You will really feel it. It's like something that you cannot ignore like that. There'll be 1,000 things that will break, but that one number, as Sachin was saying, the number is going up. You know that is the time that is the right idea. Also, another thing that I would add here is also look at, for example, for Spenny, like Econs for India. Similarly, we tried putting it as Livongo for cancer, more like a digital healthcare. You can look at other companies that have done something similar, may not be in the same geography, but other geography, and you can try figuring it out that what worked, what didn't work, and do the same parameters apply in your geography or your market. Then from there, before you even go and test it out, you already have some idea in mind that this might work, this might not work now, and how to de-risk. So basically have a plan and then also do some basic research before you even talk to users. But talking to users is the only way you would know whether it works for you or not, and in your market or not.
Interesting. Yeah. And somebody asked that, hey, did you have a backup plan?
Yeah, I love this question. Backup plan. All right. To be honest, I think this is the one that hits home the closest. So before I started Spenny, I was just about to join INSEAD for my MBA, and that was my backup plan. So if this didn't work, but to answer your question, I think it just comes down to 2 things. One, figure out are you the kind of person who works well with a backup or without a backup. There are 2 kinds of people. There are people who work really well if there is no backup, and it's like, all right, this is the last straw. If this doesn't work, that's it, I'm done. So that's when you have the maximum fire in your ass, that kind of a situation. So it's either that, or you are the kind of person who works well with, like, okay, if this doesn't work, if plan A doesn't work, I have B, C, D, E, F, G, like that. So if you're the kind of person with backups, figure out what kind of person you are. Once you have that, then I think just go ahead with it. For me, it was more like, I knew that I would never put in my 110% if I have a backup, because in my head, it's like, ye nahi hua to koi baat nahi, ye to hai hi na. And you cannot go ahead with that. In entrepreneurship, you need 100% conviction if you're going in. And so I had this choice of going for an INSEAD MBA versus starting up. And I decided to first mail to INSEAD, tell them that, hey, listen, I will not be coming in and I don't want my admission, etc. I canceled the seat before I started Spenny, because I know that if I started that with a backup in mind, I was never going to give my, like, you know, that 110% that you need to give when really shit hits the fan. That's when, so yeah, I decided to just burn all my bridges before then pursuing this. But again, it depends on person to person.
Yeah, I think for us, our problem statement remained the same. We were very sure of, enabling young creators with monetization. But the process, however, we were very flexible about that because we wanted to reach our end goal, which is creator monetization. The process. So we started with a marketplace and then pivoted to a SaaS platform. So yeah, I think you definitely, for us, we did not have a plan B. We just knew that we have to enable these 2 million young creators with monetization. There's no plan B as such, but you can definitely optimize the process.
For me, I had a little different experience in the sense that, like Ankit here asked, like how to stay focused when everyone else in your surrounding has no interest and not supportive. Like for me, because I just left my job like that in Singapore. I had to wait because I was on a visa, and my parents just did not get this. I don't come from a business family, and when I was like trying to figure out what we need to do, it's a journey that takes time. Unlike, okay, you don't have job, in next 2 months you'll get a job here. It might take a year, it might take 1 month, it might take 10 years, you don't know. So for me, it was like, I was sure when I left the job that I wanted to do something on my own, though I was still trying to figure that out. What is that one idea you want to work on? But it was taking time, it was slow. And my parents, on the other hand, they were very worried, कि बेवकूफ लड़की है, जॉब छोड़ के बैठ गई, this and that, and you are a female, like you're at a stage where you're supposed to get married and all, and not doing that. So that entire part, for me, it was not supportive. So in my case, it was more like, अच्छा ठीक है, तुम्हें जो करना है कर लो. At the same time, keep applying for jobs so that you have a backup plan. So I was like, I did that. In my mind, I was always sure, but I did that because I just did not want to continue fighting every time I'm talking at home. So I did apply and I did get a job. I did got a job. I did get a job, and I just tried to delay that as much as possible so that until I have some better idea. So then when we raised funding from Antler, which is one other accelerator program in Singapore, that's when I told them that I'm not joining, which is not a good thing. I would not suggest anyone to do that. But I had to had that plan. One was because just for my peace of mind and for my family. Second reason was, of course, because I was in Singapore, I needed a pass to stay because I was not a PR. So I was like, okay, at least with that, I'll have a legal way to stay in Singapore and continue working. Then my plan B was like, if at all I don't get funding, and if at all things don't work out, I might, if I have to join this job, then at the same time I had made a plan, like every 3 hours I'll work on this idea that I had in mind, and in next 6 months I'll see how that goes. But luckily enough, things didn't. I did not have to take that path. But having said that, in my mind, I was 110% sure that I want to do this. That plan B was just as a backup plan for other reasons.
Sure. Ratan, you want to take the last one? I know it's been an hour. What is the best way from idea to the MVP?
Yeah. I saw too many people asking this, and so yeah, let me answer that with an example. How do you go from, the question, by the way, is how do you go from idea to MVP in sort of the best way possible? I think so. MVP, first of all, is like the easiest and the sort of the fastest and the cheapest way to make a prototype or validate your idea, or make a product that helps you validate your idea. Now that's the goal. Now, if that is the goal, then for step one, identify key metrics. आपको measure क्या करना है exactly? मतलब ये idea है, ये चल रहा है कि नहीं चल रहा है, वो आपको check करना है. So for that, figure out कि हाँ ये मैं measure कैसे करूँगा. So what are the metrics for that? And design an experiment for those metrics, and then go ahead and do that experiment in the cheapest, fastest way possible. So for example, for us, when we started, the idea was we wanted to our hunch was have a hypothesis. Step one is have a hypothesis, and then design an experiment to test that hypothesis. So for us, the hypothesis was a lot of people don't invest their money because it's very boring and complicated. If, however, we make it fun and easy and simple, then more people will start investing. That was the hypothesis. अब इसको टेस्ट करने के लिए what we did was a very, very stupid sort of monkey spin wheel experiment, wherein we created a spin wheel with a lot of stocks on it, and we said, all right, if you want to rotate this wheel, you have to pay us $5. And if the user paid us $5, they would get one chance to spin the wheel, and you can get $1,000 stock as well, or you can get a $1 stock as well, depending on your luck. So, and a lot of people tried this. And we, to put this out, we just put out monkey posters everywhere in our building. Literally in the elevator, on the coffee tables, everywhere. Just monkey posters, which said, investing so easy, monkeys can do better than you. Like this was the idea. And everyone got offended. Like, what the fuck? And then so everyone just came to try this out. So many people tried it out. But during this process, we were validating one thing, that, hey, listen, if you can make investing interesting by certain factors such that you are actually targeting certain parts of the brain of a user psychologically, then they will invest definitely. So that was the point, and that we converted into our product later on. So yeah, I mean, my point is key, there is always a way to figure out idea to MVP in the cheapest, fastest way possible. Think about it, brainstorm a little bit, and get wacky as shit.
Yeah, I was one of them who paid $5 to Ratin to that wheel. And so regarding this question, I can add one thing, like, because ours was more of a deep tech thing, because we needed a lot of data. So this is something I was talking about in the YC startup school as well. But we did, like, in our case, we had in order to build our algorithm, like, we knew that, okay, there's this remote monitoring thing, but what is that basic thing that we need to do? So when we started with COVID, the idea was we would capture people who are in home isolation after they are tested positive. We wanted to make sure that all the symptoms that they are getting, we want to alert them much before things go wrong. And for that, what we need to capture the basic health data, like their oxygen saturation, other symptoms that they have and all. So what we did was we just quickly rolled out in 2 days, like a Google Sheets, Google Forms. Then there we just asked patients to fill all the symptoms that they're using smileys, like mild, moderate, severe, how many times it is and all, just made it more intuitive. Then from there, as soon as the patient submitted that was like one day we did it. We just analyzed it. We just with our algorithms, so if there is any parameter above certain threshold, we'll just put them under high risk. So that was not the best way technically, but then that was the easiest way. Because for us, we wanted to test out, are people really filling it? Do people really care about? We would charge 100 rupees for that, and people paid it. So that was like the most easiest way and the quickest way we could test things out.
Super cool. It's been over an hour, I think. Thank you so much, folks. This has been amazing. And just for the sake of everyone, if you wanna ask more questions to Ratin, Hassan, and Monica, or me on Twitter, I'm just putting a tweet here. We are all tagged in this tweet. You can tweet us some of your questions. We'll try to answer them. Thank you so much for being an amazing audience and amazing co-panelists. Thanks again. Hope to chat with you all soon again.
Thank you, Rahul. Thank you so much.
I would like to thank all of you for taking out some amount of time from your busy schedule to be a part of this session. And it was a really informative session, and we look up to you like true inspiration to us all. And a huge shout out to Ratin. Like even during being COVID positive, he could take out some time and be a part of this session. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Buddy, get well soon.
Thank you.